snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hi guys! So I am here today to do one of the most exciting reviews I've done in a while, because this was for my most anticipated release of the year. And I'm sure many of you guys will have guessed it, The Skull Throne by Peter V. Brett, which is book number 4 in the Demon Cycle series. And oh my god, I love this book so much. so much. And I met Peter V. Brett recently, so I'll put a link in the description if you've not already seen it, but I went and met him and I got this signed, so that's amazing. And you guys can see it there, and oh my gosh, it was amazing. It was such a good day and I loved it. But now I'm going to give you guys a review now that I've had time to kind of contemplate my thoughts and get them in order after being mind blown and loving this book so much. So, as many of you guys will know, I picked up the first 3 in this series a while back, like a couple of years ago when they first came out. I think around the time that the second one came out, so a long time ago, and I was eagerly anticipating this one. So I definitely had high expectations, let's say that. However, this blew my mind, and I think I had forgotten how much I adored this world and how much I love this series, because this was so good. So good. I believe one of the things that I most enjoy about Brett's work is the ideas that he manages to portray, because he manages to make these really wacky and crazy demons that are an essential part of the world seem slightly less crazy. And actually in this book we get a real look at the politics behind the characters and behind the different nations, as opposed to the demons as a problem for humanity. Basically, this is set in a world where every night there are demons which attack. They only come out in the night because the sunlight burns them and they can't survive. But when they do come out, they will attack humans. They don't like humans and they'll eat you or take you away. So they're pretty nasty people, and basically the humans who live in this world are very scared of the demons. No one goes out at night. It's not the done thing. You don't want to die, you don't go out at night, easy. But they have these things called wards, and wards basically they can paint them onto wooden posts or things like that that surround wherever they live, and they will protect them from the demons. So they're basically magical wards that keep the demons out. However, they know that once upon a time there used to be a civilization that knew a lot more about fighting demons, but all of this knowledge has unfortunately been lost, and they are left with the bare minimum of wards in order to keep their houses safe, and that's pretty much all they can do. So they don't know a lot about fighting demons or anything like that. There's often deaths, and the wards being misshapen can lead to accidental deaths. So the demons are definitely scary, and there's a lot of terror in the world. In the first few books we see the world kind of develop, and we see how they start to learn a little bit about resisting the demons. But this book really takes the focus away from the demons, whereas the first 3 focus a lot more on the demons. And for the majority of the story, we're actually focusing on the different political groups and the different nations within this book. I absolutely adore the magic within this world. It's really easy to understand. It's really easy to get into because the writing style is very quick and fast-paced and fun. I think the magic systems are interesting, and they're different to a lot of other ones, because I don't know of any other series that do demons really well, and this book does demons really well. I think that the magic systems are amazing, but when you combine that with strong characters, a great plot that's fantastic, and wonderful world building and fast moving plot lines, it's just a wonderful achievement that Brett can do that, because it's so good to read. There are so many extremely wonderful and touching and moving moments within this book. We have moments of sorrow and sadness and heartache. We have this juxtaposed along with hatred and love, happiness and deceit. There's so many different things going on within this book and this story, and I loved it. There were moments where I got a little bit teary, both for good and bad reasons, and there were moments where I was literally, and I mean literally in real life, sitting on the very edge of my bed, wanting to know exactly what was going to happen next and not wanting to put the book down. I read this over the course of 2 days, but I basically read it largely over one day, and I was meant to go out that evening, and I literally was racing towards the end of this book and adoring it, and I finished it like 5 minutes before I was meant to leave the house. So I love this book, and I read it solidly for such a long time, but I was so immersed within the world and it was fantastic. I love the different cultures within this. I feel like Brett definitely explores 2 types of culture. There's always a very clear distinction between the 2 cultures. They have different names, they have different attitudes, customs and habits. For example, we have the two cultures. One is the Thracians and one is the Thessians. I'm not sure how you say the second one. Whilst the Thessians are basically a more primitive version of the Western world society, the Thracians have a very sort of Oriental Arabic feel to them. Yet both of them are incredibly unique and interesting to read about. I didn't have one that I preferred over the other. I find both of them equally mystifying because it's not our world, it's a very primitive version of our world, and the characters within have a lot more to face than we do in our world in terms of survival, which really puts them in some tricky situations, and we really get to see how each of the customs and civilizations has taken their own approach on tackling the demon problem of the world. They're very, very believable cultures. They both have really interesting elements to them, and when these two vastly different sides collide with one another, there's obviously some big fallout and action-packed times that befall our nations. So many amazing characters take leading roles in this book, but I have to say I felt like this book was largely focused on Roger's story, and Roger is the one who you can see pictured on the front of the UK cover. Roger is a young musician. Then we have Leisha, who is a herb gatherer's apprentice, and Inerva, who is a very powerful woman. Each of these three characters I definitely felt were the prominent three within the story. They have their own wonderful plots, which are just so good. They're really, really expanded over the course of this book because there are two other major characters who have been the focus in the last few books. This book gives these three characters their chance to shine and develop and grow, and I loved seeing that. They all have their own storylines, they all have their own motives, and each of them brought their own energy into the story and invigorated it with their own life and their own personality, and they feel so real to me, and I loved it so much. If you haven't got that already, I loved this book. We also have two characters who are called Amanva and Siva, and these two characters I really, really enjoyed. We've met them before in previous books, but we haven't really got to know them until this one, and I really, really enjoyed getting to know their loyalties and getting to know their real secrets behind them, because they are quite mysterious when we first meet them, and in this book we learn a lot about them and a lot about who they really are and who they're really loyal to. They come from the Thracian race, vastly different in customs to those who come from the free cities of Thessa, and so seeing their reactions to the Thessians or vice versa was really, really entertaining as well at certain points of this story. Ashia's story was really, really interesting as well. We had some great moments where we got to see her backstory, and I loved it because there was some really harsh stuff going on and really sad stuff that went on, and we knew very little of it prior to reading this book, but she was thoroughly developed and fleshed out in this story with some very, very touching and brutal moments contrasted with one another, and many elements of her past were really laid out bare in some of these chapters, and I didn't really even know who she was in the last few books. I hadn't really taken note of her character, and now I think she's definitely one of my favourite female characters within these books because she is just so strong and powerful, and she's been through a hell of a lot. Briar is a character who we actually meet in one of the novellas that was published by Peter V. Brett fairly recently, called Messenger's Legacy, or if you've read the Unfettered anthology, then it's called Mudboy. And I really, really enjoyed seeing him included within the story, because obviously we know a little bit about him if you've read that novella. He's very sweet, and he's somewhat naive and innocent, and that's quite different to a lot of the other characters within this world. Basically, I love this book. It was great. So good, so amazing, so mind-blowing, so much better than I expected it to be, even though my expectations were hugely high, and I was so hopeful that I was going to adore this, and I did, but it was so good. Like, I adored it so much more than I thought I was going to, and I just love it, and I met Peter V. Brett, and oh my gosh, it was so good, and it's just such a good series, guys. If you've not read this series, I do not know why, because I love it so much, so much. I am actually going to be hosting a giveaway for the first book in this series very, very soon, or if it's already up, I will put a link to it in the description below for you guys to go and enter, because this series is so fantastic, guys, and if you've not read it, why not? If you've not read a good book with demons that's fantasy, this is the book, this is the series, so like pick it up now. Basically, as I'm sure you've guessed, I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. If there was a 6 out of 5 star rating on Goodreads, I would have given it a 6 because I loved it. It was so good. Definitely this is my book of the year so far, and I would highly, 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 highly recommend it. So I would love to hear your thoughts. If you've read the series, if you've not read the series, let me know your thoughts on it now that you've heard my rave review. And if you want to go and enter the giveaway, I will put the link, as I said, in the description, so you can go do that. Thank you all for watching. Leave me all your comments and thoughts, and I will see you all very, very soon in another video. Bye! Me and you gonna have a little chat.